Hello, it's Robin at the CyberDudes podcast, and I'm recording a bit of a pre-intro for today's episode because, as those of you who are watching, you will see in the actual intro, the episode was recorded some time ago, on account of the fact that my hair in that one is much shorter. The reason for this being, I went away on holiday, so we pre-recorded a couple of episodes to put in the hopper, and then I kind of sat on them for a little while doing the editing. So there are some references to world events that will seem a little bit out of date because they're like a month old. Back when we started recording this, there was the kind of software company price crash going on in the stock markets, and since then we've decided to spend $8 billion a day lobbing tomahawks at Iran so that we can have more expensive oil. So all of that has been most of the market turmoil and not the actual software bit that we referenced, but that did happen. It was relevant, and it is the subject or the lever off which we talked about AI matters in today's show. So without further ado, the actual intro.
Have you been watching the absolute horror show that is the marketers at the moment, specifically like in software and tech?
I thought you were going to ask about
week or so.
I thought you were going to ask about the Olympics, and it's no to either one. Sorry.
Okay,
Sorry to
so
my Italian friends, but what are you guys doing over there?
so basically, you're there. You've got me now
Alright.
thinking about. No, you now got me thinking about the whole sort of like cheese arbitrage or cheese-backed securities kind of thing. It's in Italian banking. We'll talk about that maybe a little bit later. No,
Wow.
the kind of current sell-off or recent sell-off in software and tech has been like amidst its tech earnings season, and this does relate to cybersecurity. It's tech earnings season, and the likes of Amazon, Google, Microsoft have basically declared that they are plowing a hell of a lot more money in like 2027 into capital expenditure, AI build out, etc.
Sure.
So, and not necessarily like terrible results. Like I think Microsoft came in kind of about where the market expected. Google had good results, I think. Amazon's missed the mark, but every single one of them has said we're going to be plowing more money into this AI stuff, and it's caused like just panic, like absolute everything shitting itself. So, but I think this is horribly. Like, Adobe have massively struggled from this as well, but that's kind of more like the fear is around, is AI going to eat the software industry? Because with things like Anthropic and Claude and stuff like that, it's I'll create my own. I won't buy software, software as a service sort of stuff as a consumer. I will create my own app using an LLM. And then recently Google, I think it was in the last week or two, Google came out with something that effectively the potential for it is like you create your own video games based off like taking a picture of something on your desk and making like a little character, and then having a LLM or an AI generated video game. And that's really hit Take-Two Software, who or Take-Two Interactive, who make Grand Theft Auto. They own Rockstar Studios. Now, the counter case on that is something like Grand Theft Auto, for example. Like, no AI is ever going to be able to recreate the satire and creativity and subtle jibes at this, that, and the other that go into a game like Grand Theft Auto. So that's kind of like overblown. And I somewhat agree with this, and I want to expand it out as a sort of broader thesis, which is what I'm going to make the subject of this episode. The AI boogeyman is overblown. The far bigger thing that people should be concerned about is security around the AI. Hello, welcome to another episode of the CyberDudes podcast. I am Robin Tong still, and he is also still Omar Sangarima with me today. You've had a haircut recently. You're looking like fresh.
Yeah, I got I'm speaking to some
Like a good beard
really,
trim too.
like I'm speaking to some really awesome kids tomorrow.
So you,
Yeah,
you want to look fresh with the
I
kids?
got, I gotta,
Wait, no, that's got an odd connotation. No,
listen,
no, not that.
nowadays, yeah, hard pause on that, but
Mm.
like, won't find.
Something got cut already.
Listen, you won't find my name in that list. I'll tell you what. Now, honestly, like back in the day, man, the Diddy parties were where to go. But like, so glad I missed that train. Really,
Fact.
truly, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah, man.
Should we
It's
just
like,
get to what my thesis is and stop the
sure.
small talk because that just got
Nah,
derailed.
listen, yeah, right. Oh man, I don't know. Like, I'm really on the fence here because I don't want to cry wolf, and I don't want to be that type of alarmist, but I don't know, Robin, and this is gonna be such a cop out, and you're gonna make a face, but like as a dad now, like I just worry. Like I have a different set of most of my conversations around this topic of like, okay, how disruptive will AI be, and what's gonna happen? Most of it is, hey, I'll be retired before it really rears its ugly head, hopefully, and then I don't know what, one little boo boo, maybe potentially two or three, who knows, right? What the cards hold, but like what they're gonna do to make some coin.
Yeah. So this is the fundamental basis of my thesis, and I am pitching it as a dissenting opinion because I do feel as though I'm swimming against the crowd on this one because
That's never discouraged you before.
so many people seem to be like, AI boogeyman, it's gonna take our jobs. I look at this with, you could say, like it's like a pinch of salt kind of like
Okay.
attitude on it,
All
because
right.
I look at my own AI, LLM usage, etc., etc., and I pay attention to my feelings around the answers that it gives and the how I feel about the amount of time that it's taking me to get the kind of or the quality of answers that I want, and at the correct kind of length that I want as well, without having to restate repeatedly all this what I want it to do. And I come to the kind of conclusion that at the moment, at the very least, AI is like a really, really sort of enthusiastic intern, and I'm not wailing on interns. I've had some fantastic interns, but it's like a really, really enthusiastic intern who is very, very good at research, but has so much enthusiasm that they take absolutely no time to work out whether what it is that you're asking for or what it is that they're giving you is actually what you're asking for. Is it the right length and level of detail of what you're asking for, and whether actually it is even correct, right? Actually validating it rather than just going off doing the research. It's like, hey, I found this. Okay, where did you find it? Oh, sorry, I forgot to cite my sources. Where did you find it? Oh, it was this one thing that was really niche that was based off somebody's kind of like wild opinion posited on Reddit 7 years ago. All right, did it crop up anywhere else? No. So I'm just telling you things that is some thoughts and vibes that somebody had 7 years ago, right? So that's a problem around it in of itself. I think that very much limits the potential, at least at the moment, for it to go like taking everybody's jobs. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be like, oh, okay, so we've now gone from for instance, like manager of a team, managing a team that can, you would hope, if they've done the hiring right, can work with initiative, work independently, can collaborate, come together, maybe from the look on your face, you think
I
I'm being
find
over optimistic about
I
the
find that's
average.
a further crazy thesis than even AI is going to take our jobs. Like I feel we could go down that path. I want to work where you work. But no,
But
I kind of
you,
get what you're saying.
yeah,
I get
you
what
go
you're.
from having a team of like
Sure,
people that you're like, okay, you've got jobs that you've been doing for a while and what you're doing, to a team of like interns who are completely fresh and just have nothing. And
sure.
I know which I take, as imperfect as a team of humans are. At least there's
Sure.
some experience.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
sorry, go on.
ego is always there, right? It's been since the dawn of time, trying to balance that out, myself included. But the image that plays in my mind when we start going down these paths, and not just with you, right? That this is something
Mhm.
we talked about. It's on everyone's mind, of course, especially knowledge workers, especially in our lane. We see the consolidation of different offerings that are touting AI inside of cybersecurity, and it's like which ones
Mhm.
are wolf tickets, which ones are legit, etc. But the image that comes to mind is just Will Smith eating spaghetti. I saw the old school, a time lapse. I
Yeah.
saw the time lapse of it looked like, how I looked pre-face surgery, right? When I was a kid, like eating spaghetti. And then now it just over time, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't develop this type of charming demeanor looking good from the jump. All right. You have to have a he's all that, she's all that type progression in your life too, where you take off the glasses, you
Yeah.
let your hair. So I think that for me tells me that yes, I do think it's slightly overblown as the markets are wont to do in terms of, there's a little bit of tulip mania odor to a
Yeah.
lot of it. There's a lot of there's a lot of, straight up this is the pot I can be a little colorful on. There's a lot of straight up circle jerking going on, right? Where one person is giving money to another person, the other entity is then using that money to provide services to entity A, and then entity C is somehow injecting money into both ends, and then it's an overblown pinata or a leech that's getting super full on the back of a fat elephant. Don't know. I'm using a lot of mnemonic devices to try to memorize parts for a test, and there was mummies rubbing an elephant this morning in my mind. The instructor's amazing. I
That's
love it.
peculiar.
It really
Okay.
is. But it was effective because now I know those parts of the EU AI Act based on the mnemonic of some mummies patting the underbelly of an elephant. Shout out to Kyle David. But you have, I think the markets are going to do what they're going to do, but I don't think it's unsubstantiated fears because again, look at like maybe just 10 years ago, the type of image generation that we could see the AI does versus now versus deep fakes versus I think that even if that progression doesn't show the J shape that it has in that time frame, let's just say it levels off, right? Let's be a little bit pessimistic or cooler on it. Now, that's still an arc that outpaces what you or I could do in the next 10 years in terms of nitro boosting our knowledge. We're not our evolutionary tracks are a little bit longer there. That's the thing that worries me, where it's recursively learning on things. And yes, you're right. The Reddits of the world, and shout out to Reddit for understanding that it had monetizable IP before everyone, they got in front of that train, which is amazing. I think that I don't know if that's good or bad for society, but it's definitely good for Reddit shareholders there. But
It's not been recently.
sure, but I think that there is a bubble for sure, but I don't think that the bubble should really. I'll go off on a slight tangent here, right? And I'll let you jump back in because I've been ranting for a minute. But like, we're thinking out of the box. As much as I hate to mention Musk, homie's gonna maybe figure out the heating and cooling constraints on AI data centers by putting data centers in fucking space.
If he plans to do that through radiative means, which is one of the least efficient ways of methods of heat transfer, and I've read this from, for one.
Well, you're schooled in this a little bit more than I am.
Got a physics degree.
I was gonna say.
Thermodynamics is not my thing.
But still, a little bit better than me, bro. So yeah, you tell me.
I spent far more time in my thermodynamics
testing
lectures
thermodynamics.
No, it was trying to get my head around the unusual pronunciation that my Chinese lecturer had of certain terms around thermodynamics.
It's a thing. It's not racist, bro. I've heard. I've lived it with my wife in terms of like the only times I've ever seen, people. Usually, I'm like, okay, let's listen to this on 1.25, 1.5, 1.75. You know me in certs, right? I like to mainline it. Only time I've gone in the negatives is when my wife has been trying to listen to certain lecturers and like, let's slow this down.
Yeah.
What the holy fuck is being said here? Yeah.
So anyway, so if he wants to cool these data centers through radiative means, he needs a radiator that is the size of 20 football fields. And this is where Muskrat, I think, shows himself to be a fraud to people who know what they're on about and sounds perfectly sensible to everybody who has the same level of ignorance around these things as he does. Not willful ignorance, just because it's not something that they are schooled in.
Way to call me stupid.
You
right
can't.
to my face. That's fucked up. I thought we were friends.
He seems to think that you can deploy these radiators like fold-out solar panels, like you have on the space station.
Sure.
doesn't work like that. It has to be one great big solid unit. Good job getting a 20 football field size radiator into orbit.
Listen, I get what you're saying. I truly do. And listen, this is something that I hate even dabbling into the realm of potentially giving that dude credit, because I think he's an absolutely detestable human being. It hurts my brain, my heart, and whatever is left of my soul.
I call him the apartheid gremlin. He's
but
awful.
He may be the first fucking trillionaire that we see on the planet, which I think, in my opinion, and you know, paint me with the red brush, I think that's obscene. Just on its face, I think that's obscene. With the levels of, you know, people not eating, but homie's got $1 trillion just stocked away. But that being said, 25 years ago, I wouldn't have thought that private enterprise would be deploying rockets in a more efficient manner than fucking NASA, right?
No.
There's certain things that, like, again, at the outset seemed so. You know what, as I want to do, I'm always going to bring it back to a fight analogy. This is like the weird hobo that has sleep dust in his hands. He may not be technically gifted and he's going to lose a lot, but if he connects, he might put you to sleep and rob you and touch you inappropriately. All three. Like, that's maybe. And you know what? There you go. Like, wait, now you called me stupid and you're lumping me with him because I also wasn't in that club. Like, come on, bro. Like, that's messed up. That's a double whammy. I thought we were friends.
Something else got cut.
Inside of a 30 minutes, called me a pedophile and stupid. A dumb pedophile.
I didn't call you a pedophile.
Oh, friends like these, man.
Also, that definitely those are definitely, if we clip those out as reels, they definitely were before the socials because of the P word. Anyway, so
sorry.
I mean, okay, there's, before we get back to the main bit or close off this Musk loop, the man does deserve credit, but not where people give him credit for. The man deserves credit for being someone who can see where he wants to take things and being a shameless self-publicist and raiser and deployer of capital. Where people do give him credit, he does not deserve it. His success,
like the science,
stems from standing on the shoulders of thousands of people who are hundreds, if not thousands, of times smarter than he is.
What's the old saying, brother?
He is the archetypal plagiarist.
Well, sure, but what's the old saying? And I hate to say this because I'm an A or B student, but C students are the folks that end up employing you and me, and they're the ones sitting there, right, with the coat and tails, top hats, fat cigars, and so it's again, I detest the man.
You're not wrong, and I hate you for it.
That's you know. So that's where, like, it's almost like where you just, like, you sit there. You know, it's the old hood saying, right? You hate us because you ain't us, right? And I'm just like, am I? But then, of course, like, at a certain point, I feel I would have to sacrifice humanity, family ties, etc. So there's, you know, the juice isn't worth the squeeze for me, at least.
No. And that's the thing, like, his kids hate him. But anyway, let's move on.
Sure. But so
Mike drop on his kids hate him and then move on.
But your point about the security around it is prescient in terms of where it's having that AI bubble, because I just recently saw, shout out to Ions, where straight up gave a news brief on, cool, Grok is great, right? See where I'm going to have, you know, my foot in both tangents here. Grok is great, but don't deploy it for anything that's mission critical or that touches sensitive information, because it's wacky too. It's wackier than even some of the it trips balls harder than other hallucinatory agents.
And this is a really good point, right? And you've touched upon a few of these things already, and I've been making notes while you've been saying it because I want to make sure that I hit each one of these. Right. So let's. I told you last night. I gave you a very vague brief.
Batman, bitch. All right, you give me half an hour, I'll figure shit out.
So we're talking about Grok for one, and be careful what you use it for. And I also think we've just been talking about, like, who owns it as well. I think some of the bigger risks from this stem first and foremost from how reliable is it? How much governance is around it? What are the guardrails? Are we going to use this bastardization or, like, bastardized kind of interpretation and definition of at least in America, the First Amendment is to say we should be able to allow our AI to do whatever it wants and whatever we want it because free speech. Like, no, the First Amendment protects you from the government, not from reprisals or fuck around and find out, for starters.
It's the perfect clause. That's
Well, like,
literally the phrase that came to mind. It doesn't protect you from FAFA.
Asimov was writing about this shit in like what, these or 60s, right? How
Another
do we not
problematic reference.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still, exactly. I mean, neckbeard's gonna neckbeard, bro. Like that's all. That's all I can say. It's like finding out.
It's like literature Polanski.
It's just finding out that George R.R. Martin isn't normal. Oh, you think so? Show me his driver's license again.
All right, can we stop making these references back to the dirty old man? Point is, 3 laws of the laws of robotics. Like,
sure.
He stated those things, and okay, yes, it's kind of got its like ethical dilemma thing where it's like, do a potential car crash, somebody has to die. Do I kill the old person or the child? Right? It's like whatever.
Definitely
that's an ethical quandary. Yeah, I think that's probably what the computer would always go for. But that's an ethical quandary. But the actual like the do no harm, the don't do things that could indirectly cause harm, yada yada yada. The laws of robotics. These guys who own and run these, who are again the other problem that sits around this, are uber nerds, but they are such avaricious psychopaths that they seem not to be caring about the things like the EU AI Act and governance, and maybe put some rules for best practice and what it can and can't do and what it should and shouldn't do. They're just chasing profit, and that I think is if you're like dyed-in-the-wool capitalist, like, yeah, you're gonna love that, but you're also gonna miss the wood for the trees when it comes down to like 20-30 years down the line, where society has eaten itself and there's no more capital to be extracted because everybody's dead, so there's no one to extract capital from or buy or sell to or from.
It's human centipede capitalism.
Yeah, it's just stupid and perverted. Now, that then comes on to the next bit. And again, I promise we will get to the actual full-on security bit of this at some point. But I want to reference Maltbook, which is this AI social media platform. And you mentioned before, like, it's been like all the AI has been trained on Reddit and all of that sort of stuff. And it's massive, like massively rich data set. And Reddit have been loving being able to sell that data. You've been on Reddit. How representative of actual conversation, actual real life conversations that real people have, do you think that Reddit chat boards are?
I think maybe it's gone. If it was at 60-40 before it started becoming the inputs as well as a playground for the outputs of AI, just let's be generous that it was 60% actual conversation. And that's generous.
No, but how representative of it do you think? How representative do you think it is of the way that people actually talk to each other in real life, as opposed to anonymously over the internet, where people are way more rude?
Oh no,
and way more combative.
I think that there's the internet factor, but there was at least at some point where I was going with this was it used to be more representative, and now it's a hell of a lot less. Because I feel that now the bots are being part of the generation of content on there. There's a ton of subreddits that I'm a part of where I'm like, this is a low effort opening post. What the fuck? And then people straight up call it out.
Yeah.
Right. However,
it's the data farming sort of
exactly. And but now it's so monetized that that's really just straight up out the window. Right. I can't even trust what I used to trust it for, which was hard body, like product recommendations, right? Where if you did enough digging, you could get an honest opinion, not somebody that's trying to, sell a product under a burner on Amazon and, review bomb the hell out of it, right? And do, review bomb in a like a love bombing way, not in a bad way.
Yeah.
Well, although love bombing is bad, but you get, I think it used to be more representative. Now it's a fuck ton less. And I think it's only going in that direction. So I get what you're saying, right? Like the internet's the internet. Like the comment section anywhere, is like the back alley of the worst town you can think of.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So where my point is with this is like, so because you mentioned the progression of technology, the Will Smith thing, like, it's maybe not eating all of our jobs now, but is it going to eat our jobs later? I still don't necessarily think that it is, unless certain problems get solved. And one of those things is this malt book phenomenon where if you go on it, basically for those who don't know, it's a social media site in effect for AI agents, which are basically just like, let's make a person out of an AI bot and have them act and, you know, go about their lives as if they're people. And they're all interacting and they're having conversations that kind of like seem like they would be the sorts of things that you would see on Reddit and Facebook, but it's all like AI and robot based, but it's basically that flavor of the sort of conversation that you see on Reddit. But what I've noticed in the snippets that I've seen is it's the same like banal, tedious bullshit of performative outrage and pearl clutching and moral superiority type stuff that's going on. So basically what we're doing is just creating a load of, it's just, I'll go to the Tommy Lee Jones quote from Men in Black. A person is smart, people are stupid. People on aggregate are, and it might sound a bit nihilistic, people on aggregate are stupid. And this AI technology is trained on the behavior of people on aggregate. So the AI agents are going to be stupid. And they are going to, all they're doing is emulating and replicating what the behaviors that they've seen in the training data that they've been given. So it's going to be all of this same, like I say, tedious, meaningless, we've got far bigger problems to solve bullshit than was the barista at Starbucks racist to me because they misspelled my name that they didn't hear quite correctly. Like, it's just like, who fucking cares?
I'm just laughing because the other day I did a takeout order and they called me Polar.
I get Roman all the time.
That's hard too.
It does my head in. Yeah, I'm like, do I look Slavic or Jewish?
Yeah, like that's not, and again, not that you're mad at that, like,
Yeah,
but
it's just
like,
annoying because there could be a Roman there who's like, it's not an uncommon name here.
Yeah.
So anyway,
with the tracksuit and all that, but like, so you get a situation where, listen, what I'm worried about is it kind of on the other end, right? Where I agree, it's gonna, I don't know. What I was struggling with that point was this, the fact that the Inquirer exists for me doesn't negate the fact that that there's still good writing in the world and that people are getting after it. These tools in the hands of like already excellent operators in whatever field they're in, I think are just going to widen the gap between the excellent few and like the mediocre many. And I'll put myself in that mediocre many. I'm not trying to say that like I'm some brain trust dude over here. Not at all, right? So the fear for me is existential, even in my part, where you're going to get a situation where a super lawyer can pay the $150,000-$200,000 a year price tag for Harvey AI, and through some experimentation and some verification, like you said about the sources, because of the classic issues of AI doing funny business with legal precedents and whatnot, that just inventing them. But you're going to get 1-2 lawyer super firms or 5 lawyer absolute super firms, where then for me, that actually does go back to the thesis of that middle and the early pipeline are drying the fuck up. That I've seen it already. We're experiencing it right now. We can't say that that's in the future, because this whole junior and definitely in security, we can bring it right back to security. Junior jobs, entry level jobs, they need 2 to 3 years of experience. How the fuck does that work?
Yeah.
Right.
So I see kind of like there'll be waxing and waning of this. There'll be correction. There'll be overcorrection. And I've no doubt that there will be a bit where it's like, there will be probably a contraction of job capacity within the market. But I think alongside that, you will probably see whatever it is that the AI empowered super firms are churning out will start to feel inadequate and exploitative for the for the service that they provide versus the cost that they charge. And then you will see like challenges kind of like come in a sort of smaller scale kind of basis. It's kind of I liken it to the way that how TV goes, here's a big ass subscription package for a big price, and some people buy it, and then they get to a point where the available market has been almost all gobbled up because you've managed to bring on board everybody who wants to pay that amount of money for it. And then the rest of the people that you've got are like, well, I don't want the whole package. I just want the sports, or I just want the movies, or I just want, whatever else. And then they say, oh, well, we'll start splitting the package up, and you can kind of mix and match and pick the bits that you want for slightly higher margin fees, but you pay a lower amount overall because you're getting only the bits that you want. And then everybody does that, and all of the packages get syndicated and things like that, and then everybody ends up with, like we are in now with the streaming services, like half a dozen to a dozen different things that they're paying a nominal amount of money for, but it all adds up at the end of the day. And then they realize how much they're spending, and they start canceling them. So then bundles start coming up, and that's at a larger price, but it's a little bit discounted, so it's the lower margin thing again. And then you end up with a load of stuff that you don't necessarily want, for example, and rinse and repeat. It just goes, it shrinks, contracts. I think the same sort of thing will happen. And how here's where I'm going to get to the security bit finally. But I think the biggest issue, one of the bigger issues around all of this is because yes, you will get the super firms, but then when you get challenges coming into the market, one of the biggest fears around all of this AI stuff is in the way that it's hit the software market in stocks prices as it's been the last week or two. To come back full circle to that is because there is a fear about AI empowered point in time code and app generation, like custom app generation by the end user through the AI, to the point that the Adobes, the Figmas, the Salesforces of the world become obsolete because these big kind of behemoths that are trying to be as many things as possible to all people don't really serve that one user's very specific needs. Now, the security problem with this, there's two problems, one of which is, or two big problems that I see, one of which is the security problem is, in my experience, most actual human developers have an inadequate handle or appreciation, basically don't give enough of a shit about security to begin with. So how the fuck do you expect a random end user who's got relatively little technical acumen and is just generating stuff on a low code basis, right? So unless you put that governance wrapper, and specifically security governance wrapper, around all of this stuff, and I'm talking in a sense that's like some kind of technology or software that's easily scalable and deployable and configurable to any vibe coded app. Unless you've got some paradigm that wraps the security around anything that is vibe coded, you're going to end up with an ecosystem of leaky Swiss cheese apps that are just exposing personal private data absolutely fucking everywhere.
How's that different from today?
Because with it being more centralized, so it's, yes, you've got a lot of apps that are hanging around, but because there's a smaller number of players, because the actual creation of them is more consolidated, there's fewer players to track in terms of how all of that is being exposed. But I think with the vibe coding, when anybody can just create the app, the problem is far more distributed and federated, and so you're not going to have large data breaches coming from here and here and here and here. You're going to have death by 1,000 cuts, small data breaches friggin' everywhere. And it's going to end up being everyone's problem. The other aspect to it as well, which is slightly less security based, but is, I think, to a degree comes down to the usefulness of the software, is, again, cynical sort of viewpoint on this, but the average person doesn't fucking know what they want in the first place. So how are they going to code anything for it? Or how are they going to low code anything for it?
Yeah, and I think what we're starting to see is this is a concept. One of my good friends, Jose Toledo.
Yes, we should have him back on soon.
Yeah, no, he's a gangster. He put it in perspective. All right, many moons ago, he would go on site to do security engagements, and the CIA triad, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability, gets inverted depending on the customer, where it's A, pause, maybe I see. That's it. Right. So
Yeah.
I think here what we're going to see, and what we're starting to see, is, of course, as you said, the people vibe coding this stuff want it to work. They just want it available. They want it to do exactly what they're asking for. Anything else,
and security doesn't figure into that.
Not at all.
No.
Not even a little bit. I feel that there's a market opportunity for the one AI provider that says, listen, we'll let you low code to your heart's desire, but then we're going to scan what we've created for holes, and then you're going to let you know. And you could even have different packages where you want us to auto fix these. Cool, it'll cost more, but you'll be able to then, because at that point you could become, I'm dabbling in the EU AI Security Act. You could become a deployer of a system and be a little bit more assured that you're not going to have European authorities, trying to snipe you with European guns. Like they're not going to be beating down your door. Or you could have another tier where it's less money, but they at least let you know, right? And so that shifts the liability. Like, hey, we let you
I'd
know you guys didn't want to fix it,
I'd
but
go a step I'd go a
yeah,
step further and say that it needs to come down to something. I think there needs to be like a legislation aspect to it in it, whereby things like
where not here. That shit ain't gonna like we don't even have privacy law here.
no, I know, yeah, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't call for it,
I
but
mean, Ron
you need
Wyden
it.
can only do so much. All
I
right,
know,
he's
I
one
know,
man.
but you need a legislative framework, I think, in there that says something like the OWASP top 10, which is the top 10 most prevalent kind of software vulnerabilities that cause security incidents. Things like saying SQL injection or injection attacks overall are protected by default. It is fully embedded in the parameters and the guardrails of the AI, the LLM that is generating the code, that nothing it outputs should be susceptible to, basically, or should be susceptible to an injection attack, where you can say in any sort of field entry window, if I use the right bits of syntax, I can manipulate the database that sits underneath it into dumping out sensitive information. Or better yet, you don't say, oh, you can't generate anything that is susceptible to an injection attack. Just say, and this has been done. This isn't a new concept necessarily. This is security as code. It's having in your code functions that do this stuff by default. And when you're setting up your project, you say, okay, have this, and this, and they'll automatically run through these security parameters. But the problem is you have to have somebody know that that's something that they need to do, unless the system sort of forces or prompts them to do it off the bat.
There's a more
But you should
endemic
have something
issue.
that sanitizes inputs by default.
But I think that there's even a more endemic issue there, because the market's not calling for this, because the market doesn't care. This would be a
And that's
differentiator for anyone. The first team or group to do this, and to show that it's truly, however many nines reliable, right? We can get into all that. That's the software SLA type, contract person in me. But if the market was calling for this, you're talking about a market that then you could pitch this to any CMMC folks in the United States, where you're doing
CMMC.
it's the if you want to get government contracts, it's the
Right.
maturity model that you got
Got
to
it.
have to show for your cybersecurity. You could corner the CMMC market. You could cater to EU folks with a little tweaks. You could go. This would be massive in terms of the open market and the thirst. But the thing is, the thirst isn't there. That's the one piece of this that I keep coming back to, Robin, and I can't quite parse it. Where why the hell is there just not the call for this outside of our particular niche, where we're yelling and going Jesus Christ and looking at the sky, but nobody gives a shit. It's the availability that trumps all. Hey, you can do XYZ, cool. It's not secure. Who cares? I don't understand it. It's probably a bad note to end on, but that's truly, if the market called for this, somebody would see it as an opportunity and go, you know what, I could make an absolute killing. You get a first mover advantage in this space, and you would make wild dollars. But no one's figured out a sustainable way to charge enough so that you can make some ducats, but have it be cheap enough and smooth enough so that it's almost imperceptible to the end user. If you could get something that combines those two aspects, you could, build data centers on the moon, make that type of money.
So that you could do it. It's just far too hand wavy. If it's so easy, why hasn't he done it yet?
Listen, I agree. I don't know the science, man, but like you said, the one thing he's good at is looking at the horizon and convincing, hoodwinking, whatever word here, enough people to go, let's try, and then try it.
Yeah, I have no problem with people being a visionary. Just don't take the credit of the hard work of other people.
Oh, sure. And don't be a trillionaire. Shit's obscene.
Yeah,
Shit's straight obscene.
I think as a closing thought, I think part of the reason, two reasons why it's not enough of a, or it's not been a thing yet. One, as you and I both know, security is not necessarily a moneymaker. It is a cost center. It's a thing that you don't have to do, but you should do for, for the long term and for the greater good.
It's a value accelerator, though. It can be.
It is, yeah, but you have to have people in a position of seeing the wood for the trees, and there's lots of people that can't see more than 4 feet in front of their face. There's a lot of myopic nature goes on. But I think the other angle to it, I think I've forgotten.
Listen, it's
no,
okay.
It's
We're still friends.
Do this.
I'm not going to call you stupid.
I could feel it leaking out of my. Don't do that.
I'm not going to,
No,
lead
I
with
think
kindness. God damn it.
There's the angle that people don't care enough, or people don't see it as enough of a value add, or business doesn't see it as enough of a moneymaker. I think people also just don't necessarily care enough about it from potentially like a privacy kind of perspective until it directly impacts them. Because I know we're very short on time, because think about COVID. Everybody on a particular side of the political aisle very, very, very concerned about their protected health information, and were citing HIPAA and getting the acronym wrong and putting 2 P's in it instead of 2 A's, clearly showing that they didn't have a fucking clue what they were actually on about.
That's always the killer.
But they were very, very concerned about their privacy. Now the conversation is immigration. They don't give a shit about their privacy. They say, oh, well, if you've got nothing to hide, then it's no problem.
Or don't.
But then you flip on them and the argument against that is always, okay, in that case, if you've got nothing to hide, you should have no problem with every time you go for a poo being webcam broadcast out to the world, because you've got nothing to hide, so your privacy doesn't matter. And that's the problem. Lots of people don't give a shit about privacy necessarily until it directly impacts them. But all the people in the world, privacy impacts them at different times. So there's not this one big coalescence of people going, no Zuckerberg, no Musk, fuck you, make things secure or we'll walk.
They're not going to do it. It's too much money to be
No, I
made
know.
just streamlining it the other way, yeah.
But also it's too much effort to coalesce like that as well for society, apparently.
Absolutely.
Unless you've got somebody. Galloway's trying to do it. Galloway's like really trying to have a push and be like, we need this like economic strike kind of thing going on. And I am on board with it. I'm considering cancelling a few things, but yeah.
On that note,
speaking of things that you can subscribe, Speaking of things you can subscribe to, if you do care about your privacy and you are still listening and have been on this long, we have discounts for Proton, VPN, and a password manager, etc. All good privacy features. It's Swiss, so there's a good amount of discretion in there if you know your history. That actually dates back to the 1800s. I think we've talked about this before. And also it's open source as well. They are a non-profit. They are not seeking to juice you for all you're worth and give you less value than you think that you are getting. I highly recommend it. I use it, and it's neat. But with that, we shall finish things up, and we'll see you again in a week or two. I actually already know what I want to pivot to into a topic, not a target. But until then, someone's got a target on the back. Until then, please do stay cyber safe, and we will see you again. Bye bye.